Alright, in the previous video we replaced a load of stuff including the CCV system, some gaskets and basically everything under the intake manifold that I can kind of think of that would need replacing. So if you haven't seen that video, go and check it out. It's the previous video. And in today's video we're going to try and solve some issues which have come up because of what I did, I think. Or, well, I don't even know. But basically it was running rougher than it was before I changed the CCV and all that stuff. So today I'm going to try and diagnose that in a way. I've been doing lots of Googling. The first thing I'm going to try is to reset something called adaptations, which I think is like the throttle will adapt and stuff to the way you drive and things like that. So basically someone said try resetting all that, and if that doesn't work I could still have a vacuum leak, which is also possible because I've not done the valve cover gasket yet. So yeah, let's start off by trying to reset the adaptations thingies. You can do this through IMPA, which I've got on my laptop. I've got INPA or IMPA or whatever you want to say up here. So to reset these adaptations I need to turn the ignition on. Don't turn the engine on, I don't think. So ignition on, I'm going to select my vehicle, which is E46 M54. That's normal apparently. So do you know what, error memory, I'm going to clear that as well. Let's just show you what came up yesterday in case you haven't watched the video. So 125, that's the electric fan which isn't connected, so that's fine. And then the only other codes I got were basically misfires on cylinder 4, 5 and 6, which is what I'm worried about. Oh, that's a new one, 128 EWS. We'll just clear that for now. Forget about that. So, and we can see erase adaptation there. Now, I wasn't sure if that was right because it says erase not reset, but I've clicked that anyway. We have all the different adaptations here. So let's try the first one, adaptation deleting of irregular running has been cleared. Alright, so I'm going to try that for each one. I'll just clear each one and see what happens. There you go, so they're all cleared. Cleared all my codes. Let's turn it off again. Key out, and then did I read somewhere that you have to wait 10 seconds? I'll wait 10 seconds anyway and then we'll try again. Alright, here we go. Moment of truth. Let's see what happens here. That sounds alright so far, but I don't want to speak too soon. I've just started it and it's cold. Stinks. I've got a fan on back there to try and get all the exhaust fumes out because it stinks. Gas myself out in the garage. Okay, so clearing the adaptations actually did help there. So it's now running pretty much how it was before I did all that work. So I think the next job is going to be valve cover gasket, because that was vacuum and I'm fairly sure that's leaking. You can literally see like bits of oil around here underneath those O2 sensors and stuff, so I'm fairly sure that's leaking. And while I've got that off, you've got to take the spark plugs out. I'll put the new spark plugs in and yeah, we'll see where we go from there. Okay, so I just said I'm going to just do the valve cover gasket and then replace that and see what happens and see how the car runs, but I've changed my mind again and I've decided that I'm just going to do it all at once. I'm going to do the Vanos while we're in there. So I bought this Vanos rebuild kit from 8XR. I got it on eBay actually. This kit was £150 and you get pretty much everything. I think this is like the top kit they do. So you get these rattle rings, which if your Vanos is rattling, I don't think mine is, but if it's rattling, they're the things that are going to stop that. You get a valve cover gasket with all the little rings and stuff that you need for that. The spark plugs I bought separately, they're not in the kit. You get the gasket which goes between the Vanos housing and the head sort of thing. You get these sorts of plugs, some of these rings. I'll show you, you'll see where it all goes when we rebuild it, but you get the gaskets, and in there is the actual rubber seals that go on the actual Vanos unit, and you get some sealant as well. The main issues I think with the Vanos units is these rubber seals. They're the main things that go, apparently. Now there's various different stages of rebuild kit you can get from X8R. This isn't sponsoring anything, I don't get sponsorships, but these guys do different levels of kits. On eBay, I've read a lot of people on the E46 forums and Facebook groups and stuff like this stuff, and it's worked well for other people, so I went for it. And yeah, we even got new bolts and washers and everything like that. So I'm looking forward to getting this together. Alright, so first thing we need to do is remove the valve cover. I'm going to remove the coil packs. So yours might look slightly different to mine. Your coils might be bolted in with 2 bolts either side, and it might be a square unit. So if it is, obviously just unbolt them and then they should pull out. But I think the actual electrical connector is just a similar thing, where you just lift it up like that and it comes out. Right, then you're going to need a long extension for the spark plugs, and I've got a special spark plug socket, which is difficult to see right now, but there's a little rubber thing in there which helps grip the spark plug so you don't drop it. There you go. Oh, yes. So these spark plugs are covered in oil and they're dirty, so we're going to be changing them. There's a ground wire here which is an 8mm nut, I believe. So from there, we should be able to just lift this off of there. Oh, alright, okay, so there's little clips there. So let's throw that over there, out of the way. I don't know if I said, but you want to disconnect your battery for this because you're working with the ground wire anyway. It's just, I just disconnect the battery whenever I'm working with the car anyway. Whilst I'm here, and because it's not really in the way, you can easily do this job without removing this, but I'm just going to get that power wire out of the way. So now along the middle we have a series of 10mm bolts. I think there's 4 of them in mine, nuts even. I think now we just have all the bolts around the edge, so I'm just going to take these out of their little holders. These are the O2 sensors. I think they're the post-cat ones or the I can't remember which ones. So you can quite clearly see now why I think this is leaking. All that residue and stuff around there. And I mean, there's oil on the spark plugs and stuff which could be coming from it. These holes here where I just take the rubber things and the washer and the bolt out, the nut out, they're dead oily as well. So let's get it off and see what this gasket's like. I'm expecting it to be a very similar situation to our oil filter housing gasket, and it's just going to be brittle and pretty much in bits. Oh, before I do that, there's one more thing. We need to disconnect that, which goes to the CCV system. Oh, right, so now I'm just going to go around. These are all 10mm nuts, bolts, whatever you want to call them. So I'm just going to crack each one with this because I have a fear of, if I go with the impacts around them all, I've just got a fear of one, I don't know, doing something bad. So I'm going to crack each one and then I'll just whip them off with the impact after. Yeah, you might need a bit of a swivelly boy to get to the back ones. So under each nut, it's the same thing as the 4 nuts that were on there. You have a rubber thing and a washer and the nut, like so, and you should have new rubber things with your new gasket. We should be ready to pull this off. Got a trim tool here. Don't know if I'm going to need it though. Oh, she's free. Alright, I think it's fairly obvious that it was leaking because you can see all the kind of stuff around the edge there. There's a fair bit of build-up of sludge there on the Vanos unit. But I mean, the camshafts and that look fairly clean for a 225,000 mile engine. What's that on there? Oh, there's one at that end as well. I'm just hoping that isn't something that's Oh no. That looks like something that's broken to me. Fuck. Twat. Aha, right, so I was worried. I think this is actually originally rubber. Yeah, so that had broken off the end of there, and I was worried that the valve cover isn't going to hold down properly, but looking at my new gaskets here, they have that ring already attached as well, which is also kind of slightly harder than the rubber, so oh, well that's quite lucky. But I'm still worried about all that milk, but I'm still going to go ahead and do the job and see what happens anyway. But yeah, look at this. So these are the old, what should be rubber. I can't even get them off. Look at that. That's supposed to be rubber and it's just cracking like that. So I suspect this is the original gasket. There you go. The bottom of it's still slightly malleable, but yeah, it's knackered that. Wow, that's so brittle. Now, these half moon bits here, I've been told you need to be really careful. Try and lift it up vertically and like parallel with the valve cover. So if you lift it to one side or the other, it can break off these plastic bits, and then you'll definitely need a new cover. It might actually come out fairly easily from there. So there you go. It's kind of rubbery still there on this bit, but this bit where it actually seals is very hard. So yeah, I won't be surprised if this is the original gasket. And there you go. Knackered. There you go. All of them bastards out. First I'm going to undo the electrical stuff, so there's one here on the front, there you go, and there's one underneath it kind of, which is one similar to that one, which has a metal thing that you press in. And I'm going to take off the thermostat as well, just so it's well out of the way. We're not going to get it covered in oil. And then there's one more on this solenoid here, take that off. Right, before I undo the bolts that actually hold on the housing, I'm going to take out these two plugs, and then there's two bolts inside there because they hold it to the camshafts. And I'm going to get an old cap and a couple of microfibers because this is going to have oil in it. Oh jeez. Oh, that was tight. Cup ready. There you go. Ah, twat. That hurt. Oh, there was a lot more oil in that one. Oh, it's dribbling on the floor. Fantastic. Right, next I'm going to take out the little caps inside. So you can see in there there's a little cap which I'm going to grab with my pliers. Should just be able to pull that out. Like that. Yes. So now we can get access in there to the final bolts which hold it on, which are these black Torx style bolts. Now these are reverse threaded, so it's, instead of righty tighty, it's righty loosey and lefty tighty. And that's a T30, I believe. I'm going that way to loosen that. Magnet to get that. So after that, it's just the bolts around the housing to undo. There's another bolt under there. So to get this bracket off, there's also a 13 under there. So then that's the bolt that goes in there. So then we can actually swing that bracket up and off. And then we can get to this, which is also a 13. Yep. And that is the final nut that holds on the Vanos unit. Hopefully. Oh. Look at that. She's free. Oh god, it's full of oil. And before you take this bit off, make sure you've got a replacement. My kit has one, yours should too. This is a metal gasket that goes on here. Aha. There you go. So this is our Vanos unit. Now this one I think has a spring in it, so just be careful when you take that off, it doesn't smack you in the face. There you go. And there's that one. Lots of oil. So on here, well there you go, that's part of the problem with the Vanos. So straight away, this is coming out of here dead easily, and it's actually like, feels like it's scratching along there. Because the main part which goes on these apparently is, there's a rubber seal here, and a rubber seal there. So we've got replacements for them. There's actually a flat seal on top, and then a rounded one underneath that, so we're going to be replacing them. And in the videos I've watched, right, they put that bit in a clamp to undo this nut, and I don't have a vise or a clamp or anything, so don't really know what I'm going to do there, but I want to take that out because I've got all the replacement bearings that go inside here. So I guess we'll try that as well, and also got new gaskets for this bit. So that's a 24mm socket. Let's see if I can't get enough grip on here. I very much doubt I can, but we're giving it a go. Oh, I've done it. Look at that. Alrighty, so in here we have the nut obviously, and then we have a washer. Then we have one of these bearings which is getting replaced. Then we have a thicker washer. Then we have another one of them spinny things, and then I'm sure there's another washer at the bottom. There you go. So it looks like that's the way to do it. Flatheaded screwdriver through that way. And then we have the rattle bearing which is getting replaced, and another washer at the bottom. So that is basically how it goes on. So we're putting in a new one of them, and our two new, whatever these are. Now I don't actually know for certain if anything was wrong with my Vanos, to be honest. And there's various levels of kits where some won't include the rattle rings, some might not include these, they might just include the gaskets and the rubbers. But I thought, you know what, if I'm taking a thing apart, I don't really see the point in replacing half of it if the other halves are potentially going to go wrong. So I thought, if you're going in there, just replace it all at once and be done with it. And then you can have peace of mind that your Vanos is going to work very well. There you go. So that is all the stuff that's getting replaced. I'm going to clean each thing as it goes back in. Right, you know what? I'm going to get some fresh oil. Because this was full of oil before I took it apart, so that's either because it's failed or... Oh, bollocks, this has a hole in it, this bloody lid. Anyway, I'm just going to lube that up. So that one goes in first. Then we have our rattle ring. Then we have one of them. Then we have this thing. Give that clean. Some fresh oil on that one. Then a new one of them. Then the top washer. Right, let's get some oil on that as well, why not? New oil. That goes on there. And then the nut can go back. Now apparently there isn't a torque spec for this. It's just apparently 3 blasts of about a second on your impact, so we're going to try that. Ow. Next thing we're going to do is replace these O-rings. So, you fucker! I just stabbed myself with that. Ah! God's sake! Let's try all the picks. That feels very hard. Yeah, that feels very hard as well. So I found the best way to get these off. You could use a knife, I think, and cut them like a small knife, but I don't have one of them. I do have picks though, so I've found so far the best way is to stab the pick in, and then you'll be able to kind of pull it out. Ooh, I'm going to stab myself again. Gotcha. Alrighty then, new gaskets. So those two tiny rubber ones are for the new caps. So I'm going to leave them in the bag for now. So then we have a round and a flat one of the small ones, and a round and a flat one of the big ones. So I'm going to put a set of them aside for the next one, for in there. And these ones then can go on. So, round one first. Just going to have a quick check, make sure there's no debris in there, which doesn't seem to be. Round one first, flat one second. Same with the bottom, round one first, flat one second. Flat one is significantly more difficult to get on. So we're going to get plenty of oil around here. And this one. And there's sort of a knack to this, I think. There you go. That's in there. Get some lube around that one as well. Lube, oil. And then I'm going to seat that one in there as well, just to make sure it fits properly, which it does. Oh, that's come off instead. That's fine. I'm going to do this for the final time now. So before that goes in back in there, I'm going to put our gasket on, which can only go on one way. It's got a little tab there. So that goes in there like that. Oil again, just going to make sure it's properly oiled up. Seat that one in there. Spring goes in there. Get our new bolts. So you've got to try and press that down and get that in at the same time. That's in there as well. Now I'm just going to gently run these down with the gun, but like I said, not tighten them. Right then, so that is basically one Vanos side solenoid, not solenoid, but that's one side of it done. And the other side is literally exactly the same, except you don't have a spring in there. So basically, copy and paste there, you've just got a different size gasket, different shaped gasket basically. So yeah, fairly simple. I'm going to try and do that one kind of quickly now, and we can get it back on the car. And that was very easy to pull out as well. Oh yeah. Washer going in. New what's it ring. New one of them. Old one of them. New one of them. Old one of them. And the nut can go back on. And then a flat one. There you go. Gasket on there, the tab goes in there. Let's get some more oil around that. Seated in there nice. So the two holes line up with the two holes. Fairly self-explanatory really. And that one goes in there. Just going to pull it out again and make sure the rubber's fine. Okay. Again, don't do these super tight. And the torque for these is actually 7 foot-pounds, which is about 9.4, because I just googled it, Newton meters, so I'm just going to go for 9 Newton meters. That should be okay, and I'm going to do them in a star pattern like you do wheels. And there we have a rebuilt Vanos unit. I think I'm just going to try and give this a bit of a clean up, because it's filthy. To be fair, half of that is just oil staining. This is a camshaft position sensor for whichever side that is. I can't remember if it's intake or exhaust. I'm going to basically just give it a clean up and give the rest of this a clean up, because everything's just covered in this sludge. Let's clean up the surface of this a bit, because that is going to go onto the car. Okay, new gasket going on, which obviously goes onto the little sort of locating thingies there and there. Final cleanup for this surface. I've just give this whole bit a really good clean as well, because in these grooves here, those little grooves there, there was loads of shit, so I got a pick and kind of picked it all out. Okay, that stud can go back in, and then just put all the nuts back in the order you took them out, and just do them hand tight because they are torqued. Alright, let's do some torquing. So all these are 8 Newton meters, so I'm going to do them in a bit of a random pattern rather than in a line, just so it hopefully evenly goes on. So I'm going to start in the middle, why not? Don't forget that one, which is a 13. Okay, and while your torque range is set to 8 Newton meters, you can do the reverse threaded nuts that go inside here, the little black ones. These ones basically. And remember, they are reverse threaded, so lefty tighty. So 8 Newton meters for them. What's going on there? That feels too tight. Why aren't you clicking? Do not want to over tighten this shit. Why is it not clicking? Fucking rubbish torque wrench. Well, folks, don't buy a cheap torque wrench. This one's from B&Q. It was like 35, 30 odd quid, something like that. But for some reason it's not torquing the other way. And I don't know why. But that's really annoying, because I'm just going to have to do it by hand, I guess. That feels about right. It really, 8 Newton meters really is not a lot. Next to go in is our new caps with new O-ring on. Next one, bit of oil on these as well. Bit of a funny one there. You can kind of get your finger in and you can kind of see as well when it's properly in, so I'm pretty sure they're in properly. And now we have our new caps, the final things. These caps are torqued as well to 50 Newton meters, which yes, seems quite a lot. So now we can put back this bracket, which goes under the oil line. So there's a nut that goes on there, which I don't know if there's a torque for that, because I'm wondering if that's going to spin the whole thing, so I'm going to torque that to the same as the housing there, which is 8 Newton meters. Bolt that goes through the bottom of the bracket. So I would think that bottom bolt is the same torque as the thermostat housing, because it actually goes through the housing itself. And that torque is 10 Newton meters. Then we have our banjo bolt with new crush washers. This one goes on the bottom, put it through the line, and one goes on there, and then that goes into there. Now this is torqued to 32 Newton meters, but can't get a torque wrench on there with the thermostat housing there, or well, that water hose on. So I've actually got a new water hose. I'm going to be changing that. So when I change that, I'll torque it. But for now, I'm just going to do it tight, but not too tight. That's probably about 30. So that's the Vanos done. And just before we go and do the valve cover, I'm going to put these electrical plugs back in. So there's the thermostat one that we took off, and there's the camshaft position sensor and the bottom one that goes on the solenoid at the bottom. And then there's also this one here that's on the electric box that goes to the fuel rail, goes on this top solenoid. Right, now we're ready to clean this up and we can get our valve cover back on. Now let me show you the valve cover. So before you saw I was cleaning it, and now it's kind of this colour inside. I was actually sat there for ages with this trim tool and a microfiber through the trim tool and going in between all these cracks and trying to scrape all the shit out. And I also used a degreaser on it, let that soak for a while. I just used elbow grease with elbow grease. Then let that soak for a bit, washed it off, and I also jet washed it as well. And I think we're pretty much clean in here now. It looks orangey, but there isn't any shit in there that was in there earlier. I mainly focused on the inside, and then I've left it in the sun for quite a while to dry as well. So yeah, she's ready to go back on. Alright then, new gasket. Ready to go in. So I think we're going in this way. Then we have these two gaskets that go in there. So I'm going to set that up over there, and now I'm going to clean up in here as best I can. Now because mine basically spilt oil everywhere, I'm going to go around the edge with a tissue first, I think, and try and clean up that, and then I'm going to get some brake cleaner on a microfiber and give it another rub down, because there's oil on the edges of all these spark plug tubes here. RTV time. They've given me a clear one with this kit. Most of them are red, but it's the right temperature when it's high temperature sealing, which is what you need. I would have preferred a coloured one so I can clearly see where you've put it. But anyway, the places we need to put it are these here and here, where the Vanos housing meets the block, not the block, whatever that is, and on the corners of these little half moons at the front and the back of the head. So let's do that. Alright, our gaskets are still set in place properly. Let's do it. This is it, the final time. And there you go. Give it a nice little press, and then we can start getting the nuts and bolts and whatever in. So my kit's come with new grommets that go all the way around and in the middle, these little things, but it hasn't come with washers, so we're using the old washers and the new grommets. But the grommet's going first, so I think what I'm going to do is go around and press a grommet into each hole, and then we'll go from there. I really hope I don't bloody drop one of these, that will not be fun. If I were you, I'd probably wouldn't put the rubber grommets on first, I'd just put them on with the nut like this, and then you can just put the nut straight on. Now remember, these are torqued to 10 Newton meters, so don't go running them down with your impact dead hard. Now you want to go start from the middle, do a star pattern all over, coming back to the middle, so that it basically puts even pressure downwards on the whole gasket. To be fair, with these bolts you can kind of feel them bottom out at 10 Newton meters. brand new spark plugs going in. Just going to get them started by hand. Run them down with that, and then we'll torque them to 30 Newton meters once they're done. Right, let's put these clips back for the O2 sensors. One goes in there, one goes in there. Right, now let's get this back in. Get our ground thingy back on. Just going to do that hand tight. These have a slight bit of oil on them, so I'm going to give them a quick wipe before they go in. Now I have kept these in the same order that they came out in, because apparently that's good practice, but there you go. Last thing to put back on, last two things, sorry, is this, whatever it is, it goes to the CCV. Just make sure those clips are properly over the lip. Power cable can go back on here if you took it off. And there we have it. A rebuilt Vanos, a new valve cover gasket, and new spark plugs. So, the RTV said it takes 24 hours to fully cure, so I'm going to wait 24 hours before I start it again. So join me tomorrow when we start her up for the first time and see if the problems went away. Alright, it's the next day now, and there's only a couple more things to do before we can start it. Literally two, just put the belt on, and then I'm going to put this box back. I don't think putting that box back is absolutely necessary really, but I'm going to do it anyway, just in case it affects anything. And then I think I'll reset the adaptations again, which I did last time because that helped. Because don't know if you have to do that for the Vanos anyway, but things have changed with the Vanos, and I'm sure there was an adaptation thing for the Vanos system, so we'll reset them and then start it and see how she runs. Right then, let's clear the adaptations again. So E46, engineers, M54, that's error memory. Oh, that's actually, is there anything in the error memory? I think it's just the fan. And this EWS thingy, I'm not sure what that is, I can't remember. But let's clear them anyway, because it'll come back up if it's a problem. So F7 for adaptations. And let's just basically go through and delete each one. I was actually wrong, there isn't a Vanos one particularly, but anyway, reset all of them. Turn her off. I think I read somewhere you have to wait for 10 seconds, so we'll do that. Here we go. This is it. Now I'm not going to rev, even when it's warmed up a bit, I'm not going to rev it much at all, because apparently you have to wear the Vanos seals in, so I'm going to keep the revs low. I'm just going to kind of see how she runs. Here we go. Well, that's a good start. Let's have a look. F5. So we can look at live data here, like air intake temperature and coolant temperature and oil temperature and stuff like that. Shit, we have an oil line. Oh, it's just gone. We can actually look at the Vanos readings. I have no idea if these numbers are good or bad or what, but yep, they're readings. Alright then, we're going to leave that episode here, and actually it was a great success, but I originally thought that, basically I was thinking that the fact that it hovers around 1 PM once you've revved it and it comes back down, I knew in my gut that it was going to still do this. I thought that was a bit of an issue or something, and after posting the video in the E46 group and stuff like that, I've realised it's not actually a problem. Well, I've been told by a few different people that it's not a problem. So, in that case, I don't think we're really having any running issues. And then in the next episode, we can be doing wheel speed sensors, see if that solves that issue that we were having. I'll drive it like down the drive and back to see if that does solve the issue, because if it doesn't, then it could be the ABS ring which the sensor works from, which is on the drive shafts on the rear. Maybe I could just clean that if that is the issue, but if not, then that looks like new drive shafts, which ain't cheap. We'll be tackling that in the next episode, and we'll do a service, change the oil and the fuel filter, and I've also got some engine flush liquid moly stuff. I've seen M539 Restorations use this on his Touring actually, which is the same colour, but his is a 525i. So I'll be using that, and I'm going to use this, which is petrol system cleaner, because I don't know how long that fuel's been in there, but the last MOT was April 2019. We're now in June 2022, so 3 years, and it had done 224,887 miles there, and it's now only done 225,000 something miles, so it's done less than 1,000 miles in 3 years, and that fuel in there is probably that same 3-year-old fuel. Pretty successful episode actually. I'm quite happy and I'm proud of the work I've done. I've never worked on a car in this much detail. All I've ever done is service my other car, which is a 2013 3 Series Touring. So yeah, thank you to 50s Kid, because I've pretty much learned everything from his videos, and hopefully you'll have learned something from my videos. So if you've enjoyed this episode, maybe you found it useful, or maybe you've just liked watching me mess around and kind of find my way, I'm just learning as I go with this, then please like the video, leave a comment, subscribe, do whatever you want to do, and I'll see you in the next one.